Really good to be back again here on Breakfast Central. It's midweek, it's Wednesday, and how fast time runs. I mean, just a few hours ago, we're talking about Monday, how the weekend was. And here we are today on a Wednesday. We are right back for Breakfast Central on News Central. Just in case you missed out on some of the, very exciting moments here at News Central all through yesterday, well, don't worry. We have some of the updates taking you back to what happened yesterday. And in case you want to catch up, you can go on our social media space on YouTube, Facebook, or you can call it Meta. Not forgetting to Instagram and the like, so you can watch us live. By the way, welcome to Wednesday's edition. Joe Hansen, yes, that's my name, and I'll hand it over to Ole.
They know your name, they cannot forget your name.
When I used to be on radio, I used to say, Joe Hansen, be my name. A lot of people will see me on the and it's not formal English, I can't say that.
I get that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm very excited to be here again. Thank you for joining us. When Joe Hansen made reference to a continuation of some of the conversations we had yesterday, one of them will be the interview with Kenneth Okonkwo. We'll bring out some excerpts from that interview. We did have a continuation of that we'll hopefully bring to you today, as well as other stories that we've been tracking around the country, from Mokwa to, other parts of the country, really. We'll share what the top stories are. My name is Olive Emodi, and thank you for joining us. I'm very excited this morning because, I did TGIT.
Oh, yeah.
No. So in Nigeria, it's interesting how we adopted certain things.
Yeah.
So there's TGIF, there's Taco Tuesday. There are people that taco is not it's not Nigerian.
Not the tacos, like the tacos itself.
So people now do Taco
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I went out in celebration of my birthday. In this life, have rich friends. Shout out to one of my rich friends that sponsored us. Shout out to
this economy.
It's pound sterling. I ate somebody's pound sterling. Those currencies that have name and surname, pound sterling. It's so great. It was really great. It was great to be able to go out and knowing that I had to be out.
For Tuesday yesterday.
So I didn't have tacos. I had a 3-course meal, very, very yummy 3-course
Wow.
meal. Imagine me starting the show Wednesday with so much joy talking about food because I went out yesterday.
It's breakfast, so
I know. Breakfast, where they're not to give us breakfast.
Blend it. I mean, come on.
Coffee, is it breakfast?
Coffee, guys. Coffee, guys. By the way, I'm going to ensure that we start having bread on set. Bread.
You are who?
So what we're talking about the issues in Nigeria, just to calm down, we just take bread, put small butter there, and press it down with.
Do you know why I won't eat the bread?
Why?
The Holy Book says, "Man shall not live by bread alone."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can live by rice and beans.
I'm happy this is.
What am I standing on this side? This spirit of Benga, this is my behavior. That's what I'm already saying.
By the way, Benga is not joining us today. Benga will miss you, by the way. But
this
we know.
na lie. This old boys club people are doing, because when I was away, you did not miss me. When you were away, we missed you. Now Benga is away, you want to miss Benga. When I decide to go away, you will not cry on the show. I will not say
it's right time men need to speak how they feel. I mean, we're going to miss you, Benga, and we hope that you'll be back on Friday, because you won't be around today and tomorrow. But Friday, we look forward to see you. So, stay true.
Actually, we do miss you, Benga. Stay well. We look forward to reconnecting with you on Friday again. Anyway, it would seem that there might be peace in our hearts.
I like how you said it would seem.
Yes. Hey!
It would seem.
Okay, I'm now going to link it. It would seem that there might be peace as Sim has seen the president.
Lovely. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I give you a 9 over 10.
I really appreciate that. I dedicate that 9 over 10 to my fans all over the world. Thank you so much. Governor Siminalayi Fubara visited President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Lagos. There was a picture that emerged, and people have been trying to interpret what is the meaning of this picture. They say the picture speaks 1,000 words, and this one is speaking thousands of words. Many are alluding to the fact that this meeting is, of course, as we count down to his reinstallation as the executive governor of Rivers State. Recall that he was, I wanted to say fired, but not fired, suspended from his office as the executive governor of Rivers State, a suspension that caused a stir, with many calling it undemocratic, saying that the executive president cannot fire or suspend an executive governor. But after, I was just thinking about that this morning, about how it caused a lot of stir. And after all the back and forth, eventually, it felt like everybody got with the program, as it is with many other conversations.
That's
and, political issues in Nigeria.
Yeah, people always get with the program. The same suspended governor came out to also say 2 weeks ago that, I mean, he agrees with the president. Great job, Mr. President, for having stepped in. And I'm saying thank you for stepping in. And, you know, in other words, he was saying it was good you suspended me. It was good you stepped in to ensure that you balance, you know, the arguments. And his supporters didn't like that, especially those staunch supporters. They were like, why is he now changing the tune of his, you know, sound or music? And then, prior to that, last week, he had also come out to say, you know what, he's not ready to fight. That do they really think that he's even interested in going back to that? Now look at me.
I know we talked about that.
Now look at me, like you said. Can't you see I'm looking, you know, fresher?
And we talked about that. The supporters of Governor Siminalayi Fubara spoke for him that it wasn't like he literally meant it. It was more of a figurative statement that we a literal interpretation to it. We had Jake Pele here. We asked him, you know, are we saying that Governor Fubara is tired? I said, no, he's not tired, but he's been through a lot, and after a while, he's just trying to say, look, I'm not desperate. It's not a do or die affair anymore. But then again, the one thing that is certain, I visited Port Harcourt, and I'm sure you did.
Yeah, sure.
I visited Port Harcourt 2 weeks back, and it's interesting. This man does have a huge support. The people in his state love him. The protest happened. The protests have died down. But in time, we'll get to find out what the next steps are regarding Governor Siminalayi Fubara. And if this meeting with the president means that there will now be some form of light in Rivers State, remember that there are key players in Rivers State, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, former Governor Nyesom Wike, you know, and in this case now the president who has stepped in. But the one thing that you would see here is when the president first stepped in, he was criticized. When he didn't step in the second time, he was criticized. You do your damned, you don't, you're damned. I don't know what they want to
apply the Nigerian proverbial pidgin English statement. He should come and be going. Which one should he do?
That's the thing.
Because you don't know what. So the president has done what he has done. And I think, whether we like it or not, if you look at it in a clear context, I mean, we've had guests who have joined us, and some of the questions being asked are, one, if you were the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, knowing fully well what Rivers State means to Nigeria in terms of its you know, national impact, and not forgetting to the rich natural resources that the state has, what would you have done? Would you have given freedom for this argument, this fight, this rift, this dissension to continue? Or would you have, you know, stepped in, having the powers, being the number one commander in chief, and not forgetting to being the number one citizen who has the power and the wherewithal to say, listen, I am going to douse this fire, and I'm going to keep every single thing going on smoothly and perfectly.
That second standpoint you're bringing in is a very Nigerian thing, where we oftentimes don't know how to keep our house in order until someone at the helm of a first person. You know, you are in a workplace. You don't know what you ought to do until your boss comes and instructs you when you're not a child. We need to move past politics and politicking that involves people. Again, it's some sort of eye service politics where you know what to do. You should be able to work independently without that much supervision. They're not babies, right? They should have been able to. Besides, they're not even from the president's political party. They're both from the People's Democratic Party. The president is an all progressives Congress.
Well, one of them is. The other one is.
Well, but officially, PDP, both of them are PDP. So we need to get to the point where we can run politics and governance without having to drag the president into every single thing. Where you're not saying, these two people are not working together. President, come and say something about this. Or not. There are times when the call for the president will be very important. I mean, look at what's happening in Mokwa. There are citizens who have lost their lives. I was watching one of the interviews we did here at News Central, where one man said he lost 9 people.
9 people.
He lost 5 adults, 5 children and 4 women. 9 people, 1 person in the flood. Those are the things that I think that are very important for the president to step into and speak about. You know, go there, commiserate with the people, which is something that we saw the governor of, I've forgotten the state, governor of Borno State do when his people were bedeviled with insecurity. He went to the communities,
took the forefront
overnight in these endangered communities for 3 nights with the military, even though people were saying to him, Mr. Governor, this thing is not wise for you to do. He said no. And I thought that was impeccable show of strength, leadership and unity to say that, we're struggling and we're united in our struggle. So those are the kind of things I would say that the president should be focusing on.
I mean, that's
move away from politics
that's what leadership is about, and that's what we saw the governor of Borno State showed, like you said, character by going at the forefront, staying at the forefront, marching with the people, telling them, listen, let's go, and that's exactly what he done. But then again, we also hear that the peace committee that was set up internally, while I was at Rivers State when we had the town hall, we also had members of the Jaw Youth Forum and so on and so on. They said, yes, that the peace deal is almost done. So when you see Governor Siminalayi Fubara holding and shaking hands with the president, and then you also hear the FCT minister during his media chat say that Governor Siminalayi Fubara did come to apologize and beg, then you can put one and two together and understand that very soon, very, very soon, peace will actually be sealed and the people of Rivers State can have their governor back on the conditions that the following XYZ he will abide to.
What are those conditions? Anyway, one of the
Olive, we cannot start. I mean, we've spelled out these conditions.
We don't know what the conditions are.
Well, it's obvious. It's clear. No, I mean,
what do you think we can't.
So the conditions, if you look at it holistically, it's simply a case of I brought you into power. And therefore, we had an agreement. That's why the FCT minister will say, agreement is agreement. Okay.
This is a Bayonanuga who has responded to the tweet, who has put out a tweet as well.
Yes.
He shows the photos of Fubara saying, Governor Fubara of Rivers, now on suspension from office. Mr. President Bola Tinubu in Lagos on Tuesday, photo State House. If you go to the comment section.
Did he have to put now on suspension?
Like you don't know. If you go to the comment section, I want to read a few tweets from this Bayonanuga's comment section. One person said, Tinubu and his cohort saw through the gentlemanly nature of Fubara, and they took advantage and did what they did to him and the Rivers people. Try it with a radical person, and Tinubu will be the one begging to retain his position as the president.
I don't agree.
After suspending the constitution of Nigeria and running the country like his private enterprise. If you are born a man, try as much as possible to be a man. This is from Mezie Abia. Another person, Samuel Ise 3, says, very soon this guy will start washing plates in Tinubu's house just to please him. Politics and politicking. How foolish does it sound to you that an elected governor is suspended? You people have destroyed whatever was left of democracy in Nigeria, Mr. Gen Z says. And final tweet I'll take will say, no, I can't take this one. This one is a bit radical. Okay. Anyway, if you go to Bayonanuga's page,
it's fine.
You see the tweets. I don't know that.
It's eliciting mixed reactions from the for the pro supporters of Fubara and the supporters of former governor, and now FCT minister Nyesom Wike. But the point is this: just as we had concluded at the town hall, everyone should sue for peace. Bottom line, everything should just get back to what it was and let the people of Rivers State just move on. I mean, there's a lot to do. The sole administrator has done budget defense. Even the president had sent the budget to the National Assembly for approval, and it's a budget for the state, Rivers State. And whether we like it or not, let's just be honest to ourselves, not with, but to every Nigerian, that there seems to be an iota, even if you don't want to say iota, there seems to be a clear, I'm trying to find the word so I don't sound negative, but there seems to be a clear indication, it's just obvious that there's something wrong with this entire process, because it's not being supported in the Nigerian constitution, whether you like it or not. We've had lawyers who have explained it. I mean,
you don't support it, the suspension has.
No, we agree, but that's why we're saying let's just get back to what it is. See, let's say it here today. You can mark today's date, and we're not soothsayers here on News Central's Breakfast Central, but we're just going to say we're setting a precedent of what would happen in the near future. Because guess what will happen? Should you have someone else take the reins or sit down as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and there should be any slight issue in one state or the other, that person will always refer back to this situation and would even decide to do more by saying, after all, remember, when arguments came up concerning this suspension, what was everyone doing? They were taking you back to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's time. After all, he did this. Then they also took you to Obasanjo's time. After all, but there was a neglect on some of the reasons why this was done. There was insecurity issue. There was so on. Those areas were not highlighted.
Of governors, because of how much criticism it garnered when President Olusegun Obasanjo did it. When President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan announced the state of emergency, was advised, see, what your predecessor did, when President Obasanjo did this, he wasn't taken kindly to. So there was a state of emergency, but he did not make any suspension of governors.
Thank you.
So people had assumed that if you announce a state of emergency, they should do. I mean, the state of emergency wasn't what a number of us saw coming, but the suspension was, I think, was the most shocking part of it.
So you see it. It's moving to another level. From just state of emergency, it's now going to suspension. From suspension, is going to
and I agree with you in the sense that
sole administrator is going to the duration 6 months.
Yeah.
And they said if the 6 months, just as the Senate President has said, if after 6 months they look, it's not, they might extend.
And I agree with you that we are setting how a standard for how things will be done. This might be powers that will be manipulated in the future. These are the concerns. The legality and maybe not legality, the constitutionality of an executive elected president being able to suspend another elected official was the cause of discourse.
Because
we never could come to a conclusion. It did seem that regardless of all the criticism that the experts, the lawyers, analysts had put forward, none of them seemed to make sense. But the flip side would be, they would ask you, if the Constitution provides for the president to, declare a state of emergency, what will the shape of the state of emergency look like? Saying, oh, there's a state of emergency in Rivers State, what would that look like? Would that look like, the governor still sitting there, and then what next, right? So I don't think and this is one question I'd ask, I don't know if we have what really is a very, very clear picture of the procedure that should happen right after a state of emergency is announced. But these are areas that I'm hoping that in the nearest future, can be sorted. And I'm hoping that, like you're predicting, it will not be something that will be exploited.
Yeah, I mean, in the future, because if you have another leader, let's call it another president, who will sit there, the next thing you would hear is, okay, fine, should there be any issue in one state or the other, then they could just decide to say, you know what, there's a state of emergency declared, and then they would decide to take it to another level. And then Nigerians would have to start going back and forth and saying, oh, remember they did this, and then there will be justification for such actions.
Maybe sit down and look. Let's move to our next story. It was a particular clip where Pastor David Ibiyomi had said that they should not carry his videos. He'd said journalists should not carry, nobody should carry his videos. He said, stop talking about me. Whether it's good or bad, stop talking about me.
He's going to arrest you.
And he said that, they will lock you up.
In his words, lock you up. And
this, of course, has garnered several reactions. One of the people who has reacted to this video is Martin Osei, a very dark black man, who has criticized Pastor David Ibiyomi. Some people, I don't know if there's a relationship, maybe there are several sides to the story. I've seen several camps who say that Pastor David Ibiyomi is related to, his mentor is Bishop Oyedepo, and maybe, well, you know what, I don't even want to go into details of what may have been said, but I think, not to play devil's advocate, in the video of him saying that a number of people watch his services, that they come to church, watch his service not because they want to be blessed, but they cut bits and pieces together to form a narrative to put out there. And he criticized all of that and said he doesn't want anybody taking his clips again, and he's threatening them, saying that if you take my clips, I will arrest you. Your father and your mother, I know that they will not, your father and mother cannot beg for you. One, on his own part, I think it reveals the frustration of being in the public light, frustration of being misconstrued, misunderstood. And it's easy to criticize things like that when you've not been in the spotlight, where people are misconstruing what you're saying or, dragging you, like we say here in Nigeria. So I'm going to put forth arguments for two sides of the divide. The first side being that I can understand and empathize with your frustration, being a public figure, being somebody that preaches and then the audience takes clips and remixes it to suit a narrative that they want to push out there so that you can be trolled and cyberbullied on social media. However, there's a way to go about it. If you feel that your rights have been infringed upon, you feel that people are trying to push a narrative that is untrue, the way to go about it is to sue them. There are ways, there are legal options for this.
Absolutely.
What's threatening to arrest and lock people up is, again, a poor reflection on Nigeria's criminal administration system, particularly the police that have been used to wrongfully set the law in motion against many Nigerians. People of power and influence often have been accused of, when you step on their toes, they use the police, arrest you, lock you up. The people who have been in prison for weeks, months, years, that have not even been allowed to go to court and take a plea because they offended some rich person somewhere. Flashback to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's wife, First Lady, and the criticism about some people having robbed her and how they had been in jail for the longest time, right? That, again, is indicative of the poor and the decay and rot in our criminal administration system. So it's a poor reflection of the Nigerian police, right? So there are so many things, so many angles to that. If you want to be a public figure, as a public figure, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The media, the audience, people would truly say they should not take his news. Sure, we are discussing it on TV now.
Yeah, I mean, because we would discuss it. And there's a reason why we would discuss it. Because you've put it out there. And you putting it out there, it's not just you put it, there's a difference when one thing people need to understand, whether you do good or you do bad.
People always have an
opinion. That's one. Secondly, you didn't just put it out there, but many have called it spiritual intimidation. You've also intimidated members of the public, and you've told them that, listen, if you talk about me or use whatever I've said or whatever, or troll me or say anything, I'm going to arrest you and I'm going to lock you up. That's a strong statement. So I'm also going to look at it from two aspects, okay?
Okay. The
first aspect is this. I mean, I think human rights activist and lawyer DJ Adeyanju also reacted to it. I think he tweeted about this statement he made as well. Hopefully we can get that tweet up. But the two aspects we can look at it is this. One, the person you're following, who is Christ, they throw you reach out. They even beat him, spat on him, did all sorts to him. They dealt with him. They even killed him. Anyway, let's see what DJ just says before I go back to my point. He said, I'm so disappointed in Papa David Ibiyami warning and threatening Nigerians to talk or criticize him, or not to talk or criticize him or his church, else he will lock them up. Who are you, sir, that people can't talk about your church or criticize you? People criticized Jesus and he did not lock them up, and boasting about using police to lock people up. A pastor. These pastors are acting like unbelievers and demarcating Christianity. They are the reason many people are no longer going to church. Full stop. Now, a religious leader talking like this, what will you now expect from politicians when they become dictatorial? I think the obvious is there. And while we agree that it hurts when people use your clip or talk negatively against you, the question I have, Oliver, I have so many questions. When I saw that clip, I
actually want to open a portion of scripture while we're
talking. You ask me why I'm laughing. I mean, it's just clear. Who is a Christian?
A follower of Christ.
So what is, did Jesus, even the same Bible says Jesus did not go about threatening even when he was being, dealt with unjustly. So, he didn't go about, let me finish my point, I'm coming. He didn't threaten. He didn't say, I will lock you up. Even his own disciples that betrayed him, he didn't tell him, I will deal with you, I will lock you up. Remember, I always say this, Jesus had powers. He could have just looked at someone and do like this, and the person would turn to a mice or whatever. He had those powers. But he showed by example that, listen, this is what it means. And
he was mocked even up until the cross. They called him King of the Jews.
I get worried with this type of footage. So the followers now, his followers now, I have a question for them. Is this Christ-like? It's just a clear question. I don't need answers. Think, is this Christ-like?
So, I think I'm also learning that before people are men of God, they are first of all men. And they are prone to making mistakes. I don't think that there's a situation where pastors or men of God sometimes don't, I mean, there's a part where sometimes flesh can step in. But the most important thing is if you are guided by a relationship, a deep relationship and an intimacy with God,
scriptures,
you know, there will be the Holy Spirit will quicken your heart to know that you stepped out of order. And then you will come back either to apologize or take accountability
is he going to apologize
for your actions. Well, I mean, I don't know. But I do think that might not be the greatest mindset in terms of feeling like you can oppress and threaten people
that's
because
not
speak about you. And in response to what you were talking about, Matthew 5 verse 10 to 12, I'm not reading the 2, but it said, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. But the thing is, Jesus was able to handle that. We are human. Sometimes,
Olive, but there are many now.
Yes. So I'm saying
the Lord's Jeremiah helped.
Oh yes, I know. I agree with you that a lot of the prophets. John the Baptist. Look at how John the Baptist's life ended.
Did they
just because of one girl dancing.
I will lock you up.
Yes, I understand. So what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to hold brief. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, they are first human before they are men of God. And we must learn to.
I'm sorry. Are we making excuses for?
I'm not making excuses. I'm saying I already criticize that it's a wrong mindset. It's wrong to communicate that. However, I'm also saying that I see past, and because we've deified religious leaders in Nigeria in a way that almost makes some people wonder: are you worshiping God or are you worshiping your leader? Right. So I see past all of that and see that these people are first of all men before they are men of God. There have been times I've listened to certain sermons and I think this sermon is great, but sometimes I'm like, that one not quite enter. And it comes from us being on our own, being able to find an intimate relationship with God. So such that you know when this person is veering off scriptures, that this one is not supported by scripture. This one is their own flesh interpreting this portion of scripture to mean, and people hide under the guise of, you know, touching not my anointed. I'm not touching your anointed. What I'm saying is know God for yourself. I think that's some of what I'm trying to say. Every man, know God for yourself. Honor your men of God. Honor the pastors, but know God for yourself. And for those who are Christians, I would say pray for your religious leaders. Pray that, you know, at the end of the day, when the flesh tries to kick in and when emotions try to kick in, that they're able to rein it in. Jesus could do it easily. We're still a work in progress. We're not there yet.
I think. Personally, I think he should apologize.
Okay, I don't have
anyone who says no, I think he should apologize. That's a threat, and that's a very strong statement. And like you said from the beginning, anyone watching us knows that if you feel someone has done something wrong, use the legal means. The Nigerian Constitution allows you to feel free to say, oh, now we're talking about libel, defamation of character. Okay, this person, there's defamation of character. My lawyers, he has lawyers. Okay, lawyers, please write to this person. There's a defamation of character against my person. And then they invite the person. Then you can sort it out. But you see, when you mount the pulpit, I mean, who are we to tell you what to do, what not to do? But when it comes to the tenets of, in quotes, what we stand for, which is Christianity, it doesn't allow this, where you tell people if I will. And you know what bothers me most, Olive? If we don't talk about this, guess what? We're going to come back here on set and talk about how the police arrested a musician or a plumber and locked him up for 6 months. And because he was locked up, people couldn't get him because there was a powerful man on the street who had power and said, lock him up. But this is the one who is teaching people not to do so. But before their eyes, he's now coming to say, I would also lock you up. So who is different? We're fighting terrorism at one side, where videos were emerging yesterday of how they've killed our gallant soldiers. And then we're coming back to say, oh, we're struggling with terrorism. These people are killing and they're making videos and threats. Now, the one that people have hope on is also threatening them. So where Nigerians are wrong, where are we going to? If you are supposed to be safe, with the one that's supposed to be safe is now threatening you that if you do to him, he will lock you up. So Is it a banana republic? Everybody's locking everybody
it's just
up.
emotions.
Olive, if you do any, I'll lock you up.
Emotions and anger. Sometimes we say lots of things that we don't mean.
Come on.
And I don't want to believe that he would genuinely go and pick everybody
But I think, honestly,
upsets.
there should be an unreserved apology. That I may have been angry, and I said this because it's unchristian, and said I will lock you up. Because he hasn't gone through what some of the prophets even went through. Half.
Oh yeah, you don't do. Let's go.
Anyway, Kopashon.
This is a great time to be an NYSC core member, whether someone who's currently a core member or someone who served. And at the time when you were earning 33,000, if you were someone who was earning 33,000, when the 77,000 became approved, guess what? You're in luck. Because they're going to be paying salary arrears, 44,000 naira per month. And that comes to cumulatively, I think, 325,000 naira, I'm not sure, but a little over 300,000 naira. So for every month you were not paid your 77,000 naira, reports reaching us is that you will be paid a total of over 300,000 naira.
Yes.
So that they're trying to basically make up
33, 77.
Yes, that's
so
what I'm saying.
Up for the arrears.
That's what I'm saying, that for the month they were paid 33,000 naira. If when they had given the policy and approved the 77,000 naira policy, they're going to now pay 44,000 naira for each of those months to match up to, I think, 352,000 naira, which is a balling figure for somebody who's just done with NYSC. You have your 352,000 naira to start, do whatever it is you want to do, settle in with your new job. I'm hoping you've gotten a new job.
Oliver,
buy a few new things.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me, Papa.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I'm not thinking. Talk to me.
Can you look at my attire?
You want to go and save?
Can you see?
You want to go and save?
What do I look like?
The shoulder pad is high.
What do I look like?
Kopawiwa.
I'll be back. Give them the headlines. Let me go and collect my 44,000.
No, you're not one of them.
No, we have to date back.
No.
President Tinubu's ambition must go back.
No, like my brother.
Back.
Yours right now, you are really like, in terms of, assessing coppers, you're like a dinosaur. Because you served ages ago, in the Stone Age, that's when you served.
Our top stories today are as follows. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Let's give you our top stories according to the dinosaur.
Okay, let's show top stories.
All right. Today on Breakfast Central, we're taking a look at the state of the nation, a continuation of the interview we had. We also had to go back and have a clear recording for you with Kenneth Okonkwo. Fubara meets President Tinubu in Lagos. The conversation is indeed, eliciting conversations as well online and everywhere. Insecurity in Nigeria would be our focus. Sad stories emerging again from the northern part of Nigeria. Meiji, others accuse President Tinubu of a lot, and we'll also see the response from the presidency. Newspaper front pages will be up. Don't forget at 9 you can call in. But let's start the show after the break. Nigeria's political landscape is heating up with shifting alliances, stirring up tensions across the board. Opposition parties appear increasingly unsettled, especially as speculations grow around what the Atiku-Obi coalition might be planning ahead of 2027. Among the struggling opposition parties, the Labour Party stands out. Once a formidable force, it now grapples with internal issues and a weakened leadership structure. Well, on Breakfast Central, we spoke with a former Labour Party ally and outspoken politician, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo, yesterday. He claimed that he had earlier warned the party about its looming crisis. He believes the Labour Party will need to align with the ongoing coalition if it hopes to stand any real chance in 2027. Well, we do have the continuation of that interview, and let's take a look at his reaction concerning the Labour Party and INEC.
When I was a member of Labour Party, we did not envisage such a situation, and I warned them beforehand. If you don't tackle this on time, such a scenario can emerge. The root of the crisis is in the fraudulent organization of a purported national convention in Nnewi, where people fraudulently allocated posts to themselves and came out and started raising their hands that they are the members of the National Working Committee of a national party without election. By their own admission, there was no election, because they said all of them came out unopposed. What other thing do you need to know that there was no election? Have you seen an election of any party that garnered up to 6-point-something million persons and the entire National Working Committee members came out unopposed? That is fraud. Even INEC was not invited according to law, and that was why INEC disassociated themselves from that purported convention. And even when INEC disassociated themselves, you saw the way those people that were claiming that were disgraced, and they went to court, and eventually the Supreme Court said their regime has come to an end, and if your regime comes to an end, you go in peace and leave the party alone. And the party constituted a caretaker committee, which is the only legitimate leadership of the party. But you are dealing with an INEC that has become a department of APC. Can you imagine an INEC that disassociated themselves from Abure, disgraced him out of their office, and the Supreme Court has now sided with INEC that Abure is not the legitimate leader of Labour Party? And INEC is now telling you they don't understand what the Supreme Court interpreted. An INEC that was represented by a son in that judgment is telling you they need time to understand the judgment of the Supreme Court. You need time to understand the judgment that was given in your favor as a supervisory organization supervising the political party. You were the first to disassociate yourself from an Abure-led leadership. Now Supreme Court has disassociated itself and the courts from Abure-led leadership. You are saying that you need time. Do you know what it means? First of all, the judgment of a court is an interpretation. And INEC is saying they need time to interpret an interpretation. What a shame. The whole idea of court is to make clear the wordings of the law. They have done that explicitly. And INEC is feigning ignorance that they did not understand what the court said. And they need time to interpret the interpretation. Is that not enough to sack everybody there for being grossly incompetent? They know what the court said, but they are waiting for order from APC to decide what they will do with Labour Party, because their intention is to frustrate all the opposition parties, to bring opposition parties to disarray, so that they will not form a viable platform to oppose APC that is now their paymaster. They know that the Supreme Court has given a judgment. First of all, the judgment of the Supreme Court is final, and it's not supposed to last more than 24 hours before it's obeyed. And look at an organization that is paid by the taxpayers of Nigeria, spending months, and yet has not come out categorically clear to make a statement as to who is the leader of Labour Party. Professor Yakubu is the worst thing that can happen to any country in terms of electoral management, in terms of managing the electoral body. Just look at that, the judgment of the Supreme Court. A professor is telling you he does not understand what it means, with all the lawyers that are being paid. You don't understand that the Supreme Court said that the judgment of the lower court that recognized Abure as the leader of Labour Party is hereby set aside. You don't understand it? What is confusing about it? You don't understand the fact that when you rejected Abure, Abure went to court and used the court to force you to recognize him. And even in your portal, you said Abure is the national chairman of Labour Party by order of court. And court is now removing such tag from its head. And you're saying you don't understand. The court said, no, you cannot use the court to force yourself on Labour Party. That's what the court said. And you're saying you don't understand it? No, you do. But your incompetence and the corruption going on in INEC will stop people from doing the right thing. What you're doing is that you want to make all the opposition parties to be in disarray, to pave way for a smooth run for APC in 2027. And let me say this. This is not to exonerate the opposition parties from blame, because you cannot bring ant-infested wood into your house and not expect lizards to pay you a visit. So all these lizards from INEC, they are paying the opposition parties visits because they brought in ant-infested woods into their house. You have to put your house in order. Can you imagine Abure and his thugs doing everything against the law, and then the other members just looking at them? In Labour Party, there are no elected members at the ward level, at the local government level, at the state level, at the national level. Abure appointed all of them. In Nigeria, have you people been invited for any congress in Labour Party since you started working in New Central? You can contradict me if I'm telling a lie. What kind of party is that? So a party deserves the kind of leadership that it is looking for. So in 2023, Labour Party was available and the vehicle was used, and God blessed them with such a wave. But you see, only good character can sustain any of such wave. It has been blown into smithereens. So I want to tell you that INEC is playing the script of APC. Simple. Because the judgment of Supreme Court is very clear. How can somebody go to High Court, win a case, and you, the INEC, called him back based on the order of court and he stated it, went to Court of Appeal, won the case, and Supreme Court gave a contrary judgment, and you still say you are thinking? That's a shame. They are not thinking, they are corrupt. It's as simple as that. They are living in disobedience to the rule of law, disobedience to the Supreme Court judgment. They should be tried for contempt of court. That's what INEC should be tried for. But the judgment is very clear. Senator Nenad Usman was the appellant, and Supreme Court gave her judgment, said your appeal is meritorious, and you're saying you don't understand it. Abure had a cross appeal, and the Supreme Court said it is unmeritorious, and you're saying you don't understand it. What don't you understand? No, they do. They simply are waiting for APC to tell them what to do, because INEC under Yakubu has become a department in APC. That's why Nigerians must rise up if they want their will to be established in Nigeria. They must enforce their will, because election is the expression of the sovereignty of the people. The sovereignty of the people, their will is expressed through elections. And if they allow themselves to lose that power to choose their leaders, then they will be ruled by tyrants and dictators. So Yakubu knows what the Supreme Court has said. He doesn't want to obey it because he's in cahoot with APC. In my own opinion, Labour Party as presently constituted is not viable enough to prosecute a presidential campaign. I know what we saw in 2023. You could see, you couldn't have agents in all the polling units, even in Abuja, even in Lagos. And that was how our election was stolen. When we had such a wave, we couldn't defend our votes. Is it now in 2027, when the wave is even ebbing, is even going down? The only choice the Labour Party has is to join the coalition unconditionally, because for me, they are not viable enough to prosecute a presidential campaign. I know what it takes, having been a presidential spokesperson, to prosecute a presidential campaign. And Labour Party as presently constituted cannot go it alone, by whatever name called. So their only option is to join the coalition. And then, if they join the coalition, they will be able to get a better deal for whoever is coming from there. But for now, they can't go it alone. They go it alone, they'll fail it alone. And not only Labour Party, any other opposition party as presently constituted, PDP or Labour Party, cannot go it alone, because they are practically non-existent. And I'm saying vis-a-vis the ability to conduct a presidential campaign. PDP, Labour Party, they are practically non-existent as a party that can effectively carry on a presidential campaign.
In the words of Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo, Labour Party as presently constituted is not viable enough to prosecute or, I would say, carry out a presidential election, especially because of what happened in 2023 vis-a-vis what the current situation is, which now brings us to the big question. What exactly is the coalition planning? Is there a grand strategy behind the scenes? Let's take a look at what his response is.
Well, coalition is an alliance for combined action. The coalition that is emerging is not a coalition of Atiku and Peter Obi. It's a coalition of the willing, the coalition of men of integrity in Nigeria who have seen that the ship of Nigeria is being voyaged to Armageddon, and they are coming together to salvage the situation. So it is not a coalition of Atiku and Peter Obi. And then one thing about coalition is that it operates in the collective. People come together and bring their ideas together to achieve their desired objective, which is the security and welfare of Nigerians. So the issue of platform is being discussed, and it is when those things are settled that you begin to say who are interested in aspiring for any position. And it is when those people now appear that you begin to talk about who will be your candidates. For now, you secure the ground before talking about the maths. There is no coalition of individuals. You have coalition of Nigerians for a better future. So the issue of Peter Obi running with Atiku has not arisen for now in the coalition. The issue of do they run under any platform has not arisen because we have not chosen any platform. When we choose the platform, then people that want to run will signify interest, and that's when you begin to talk about the combination of any politician.
To shy away from speaking truth to power. Well, Kenneth Okonkwo also talks about the APC possibly taking a swipe as well, like he did, and criticizing what he describes as premature campaigning ahead of the 2027 elections.
Very notorious in desecrating the rule of law in Nigeria. Campaign by the Electoral Act has not started, but they have started. I don't know what endorsement means if it's not campaign. He said he has not declared his interest, but he is saying that they should sweep all the other parties clean or thereabout. And he is acknowledging the endorsements, changing administration to campaign, rather than checking where he has failed to know whether he can make amends for the next 2 years. They are indulging in campaign. APC has been an endorsement machine from northwest to southeast to everywhere. Endorsement. They are trying to know who will endorse more. Flattery of sycophants and admiration of fools. Not by my words, but by the words of Richard Steele. And I repeat, Richard Steele said that when you commend someone, add your reasons for doing so, because that is what will distinguish the approbation of a man of sense from the flattery of sycophants and the admiration of fools. Whoever is endorsing this government for the inordinate killings, deaths, destruction of innocent lives and property in Nigeria is doing it standing on the graves and blood of the innocent people that are massacred every day. That's the flattery of sycophants. That's the admiration of fools. You can see in Nigeria, borrowing, going on, using it for nothing. A president gathered the whole governors, gathered the whole press to commission 30 kilometers out of 700 kilometers of road in Nigeria. What is the percentage of 30 out of 700? Not up to 1%. Not up to 1%. Because when you talk about 700, 10% is 70, 1% is 7. So you're talking about 3% or thereabout. It's a shame. Honestly, these people, they do things that will make you to begin to ask whether whoever wants to be a leader in Nigeria should not go for mental test. Because you will not have any other explanation to certain things they do. So the issue here is that we are in a country that is in dire need of new leadership. And the coalition offers the best alternative to this leadership. When the platform is chosen, we would look at the available aspirants and choose the best for Nigeria and move on with that.
Politician and one who has spoken tough about the way forward for Nigeria's current state of the nation. Olive, it's been a long conversation looking at the fact that he has finally put to bed or put to rest the wonder of how the coalition would work between the very strong political juggernauts, talking about the former Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, and not forgetting too his principal, and you could say Mr. Peter Obi, the 2023 presidential election candidate for Labour Party, and also you do have other political bigwigs who have joined forces, so to say, in order to ensure that 2027 would be a tough one. So a lot of points were made in this conversation with him. Too many points. That time will fail us if we need to dig them up. But I think we'd like to highlight the fact that he's laid it eventually to rest, that there's no political party that has been selected. So for those who were saying that possibly Atiku will move to our SDP or whatever, he's saying not yet. Nothing has been cast in stone for now. And then he talked about the challenge, which would be INEC eventually, where he talked about INEC not acting, especially under the rule of law. The Supreme Court's verdict on Julius Abure, who happens to be the embattled chairman, Labour Party chairman, and he's saying that it's clear the law has taken its course, the rule has been put in place. He shouldn't be, but then again, the INEC says that they are taking time. They need time to study, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's a long conversation.
Many things, really. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I think the highlights for me would be the two things. Of course, stating that with the coalition, there's no known political party first. That talking about who the leader of the coalition will be is literally putting the cart before the horse. So that first, there needs to be a platform chosen before there will now be a decision as to who the aspirants would be. Then he also, I think the second highlight for me was the INEC, the role that INEC has to play in the elections. He criticized highly INEC's participation in what some might refer to as the destabilization of the Labour Party, especially with regards the misunderstanding or the claim of misunderstanding Supreme Court's judgment. He says here that INEC is in cahoots with the APC. He said that he alluded to the fact that INEC is working for the APC. He doesn't really have faith in their ability to be able to, he judges the 2023 elections and says that from what he's seen so far, there's going to be a lot of work that will be needed to be done for 2027. And also bringing it back to the Labour Party, saying that the Labour Party, as presently constituted, is not ready for a presidential election. And I can see why he will say that. Many other things he talked about, saying that there are no local government, no elected members at the world, local, national levels at the Labour Party. All of them were appointed by Julius Abure. So some of the flaws within the Labour Party he highlighted. Again, a reminder that before you can look outside and look at wanting to contest and be a major part of the conversation, there's certain in-house sanitation that needs to be done. He says that a party is deserving of the kind of leadership that it has, because it's reflective of what you are, of the work you've done on the inside. So you're very deserving of the kind of leadership that you have. Kenneth Okonkwo has been one to speak very strongly about Nigeria's political situation, criticizing the things that he hasn't found very pleasing. He's been a strong critic of the current administration, even the Labour Party that he initially was a very strong ally of. He's been very vocal in pointing out the ills going on within the party. And as a matter of fact, he says that he predicted some of the things that are currently happening in the Labour Party, called them out much earlier, and then along the line we started to see things play out. But conversations are on regarding elections, campaign season. Unofficially,
it seems like it has started.
Exactly.
It has started.
Campaign season is unofficially has started, because that's what it seems. Everyone is talking about their potential to be able to position for 2027.
Already on
people are already giving the
flyers,
president.
billboards.
Say we can guarantee. Yesterday we had Delta State saying, I guarantee Mr. President, Delta State come 2027. Your governor has guaranteed.
Why are you pointing to me as my governor?
That's why I say my governor, your governor.
Why do you use the governor?
Okay, Akwa Ibom governor.
The Akwa Ibom State governor. The Akwa Ibom
Okay, the Akwa Ibom is still your governor, whether I like it or not.
No,
the Akwa Ibom State governor has also pledged allegiance.
You know, when you say your, it's like I'm with him.
Your personal
governor. In terms of maybe
or your decision.
Personally, I'm with him. In terms of I work with him.
Okay.
But I don't, so that they don't
misunderstand.
We heard you work.
Okay. So
but I can say your governor.
Our governors
I can say you.
Have pledged allegiance. So yes, it clearly seems like election season, campaign season is upon us. Even though the elections are 2 whole years away, but our politicians, just like the game of chess, they're strategizing and trying to decide what the next move is, laying the foundation of what will be 2027 election that will determine who gets to clinch the major leadership positions in our country. Promises to unseat President Bola Tinubu at the upcoming 2027 general elections is gaining momentum, as the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, and several others say that the current administration has impoverished Nigerians, weaponized poverty, and increased hardship in the country. This was as they converged on the nation's capital for the 60th birthday lecture of the former Minister of Transportation, where they vowed to go ahead with their proposed coalition, saying it will serve as a means to achieve their purpose. Amadine Uyi brings us more details in this report.
It was a gathering of Nigeria's political elites, many of them discontented with the performance of the current APC-led government. The 60th birthday lecture was organized by the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, with the theme, Weaponization of Poverty as a Means of Underdevelopment, a case study of Nigeria. Some present say that the challenges facing the country has become enormous, with Nigeria now facing a crisis.
For all those who are saying, oh, we have to be careful before the country, before we get into a crisis, please wake up. We're living with banditry, with Boko Haram, and you're still saying that there will be a problem. What are we waiting for now? We are already there. We are already in crisis.
Keynote speakers at the lecture include the former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, and several other notable personalities. Despite commending Amechi for his birthday celebration, they said that Nigeria is in urgent need of a fix, and informed those present of the need to band together to wrestle power from the current government.
We are all hungry. All of us are. If you're not hungry, I am. You may laugh. So for us, the opposition, if you want us to remove the man in power, we can remove him from this power.
Nigeria is in its biggest problem since 1914. We're together working, conspiring to build a coalition to take Nigeria
particular government is weaponizing poverty. You may call me a conspirator, you may call me anything, and that is why we are in this alliance, to make sure we don't allow them to continue weaponizing policy.
The former Minister of Transportation also took a swipe at President Bola Tinubu, accusing him of being incapable of solving the nation's challenges.
President Tinubu said it has, what do you call, our suffering has come to an end yesterday or yesterday. Has anybody's diet changed? How many of you can buy a cup of garri at the rate? You know, the problem with Nigeria is, if you say the last president was very bad, the incoming one will be worse.
With talks about forming a coalition ahead of the upcoming 2027 general elections gathering momentum, these political heavyweights, according to Nigerian standards, are positive that they can form a consensus and give the ruling All Progressives Congress a run for their money. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
And that's that report there from Amadin Uyi, and everyone is talking about the coalition as well. Well, let's move away from that. The nationwide strike by the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, has been suspended following hours of closed-door negotiations with representatives of the federal government. The meeting, which took place on Tuesday, June the 3rd, at the headquarters of the Department of State Services in Abuja, led to the decision to put the industrial action on hold. JUSUN had embarked on the strike to demand the payment of 5 months' wage awards, implementation of the 70,000 naira national minimum wage, and a 25 to 35% salary increment for judiciary workers. The strike, which began on June the 1st, disrupted court activities across several states, with partial compliance observed in some federal institutions. More details of the agreement reached and timelines for implementation are expected to be made public soon. So I think that's very interesting and good news, especially for Nigeria's judiciary system. So everything can indeed go back to the way it was as normal. If you just tuned in, this is Breakfast Central. Our first hour is done. Let's bring you a quick recap and tell you what's coming up next in the second hour. A quick recap of the stories we've talked about this first hour. We've looked at State of the Nation, of course, with Kenneth Okonkwo, where he shared his thoughts on the current situation. JUSUN calls a strike good news for Nigeria's judicial system, and the way forward, we'll wait for a communique to come out soon. Mechi, others accused President Tinubu in that report package by a man, Amadin Uyi, and we also talked about the coalition there. Well, let's bring to you what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central. President Tinubu hosts Governor Siminalayi Fubara in Lagos. Pictures emerge. Is there hope? Is he returning back to power? We'll also look at Mokwa floods and insecurity in Nigeria, the struggles to bring peace to the northern parts.
Days after devastating floods swept through Mokwa local government area of Niger State in north-central Nigeria, residents say they are still without basic necessities. With homes destroyed and no functional internal displaced persons camp set up, many victims are struggling to survive without shelter, medicine, or clean water. Our correspondent Joshua Imai brings us more reports. He's been following up this story. But let's take a look at this package before we get to speak with him.
The flood waters may have receded in Mokwa, but what remains is a crisis no less deadly: homelessness, pain, devastation, and heartbreak.
We don't see calm. So where you they sleep now? Oh, the place where things happen, now they sleep.
Nearly a week after the incident, the promised IDP camp remains missing. The war chief says it was never created.
Where is the camp? Tell me which government say that is camp. They located one primary school there, when nobody there. Nobody there. Only children, those almajis went there and sleep. And you are not telling me that there is camp.
With no shelter provided, more victims are gradually falling ill, and there is fear of an increase in the death toll, not from the floods, but from government's neglect.
What do you feel like currently?
I'm feeling headache and cough and cold again.
Cough and cold. This started after this incident or before the incident?
After it started.
I've experienced so far like malaria, cholera, and fevers, and lots more of waterborne diseases.
You are sure about cholera?
I'm sure.
The Niger State Emergency Management Agency insists an IDP camp has been set up and that relief efforts are ongoing. But those on ground, hope is drying up, just like the floodwaters did after the devastation.
It is 5 days after. Don't you think it's too late?
It is not too late because they refuse to come. If you look at it, some people are still here scavenging to try to get what they are going to salvage, from the debris they have here. And then most of them are still traumatized, and some of them feel it's even a slap for me to go and say, when I have my brother or my sister or my daughter, my son or my daughter having his own house, that I should come and stay in the school. And then some of them, because they have not experienced this before, they are thinking, if I go to camp, who will feed me?
Here in Madza Primary School, donor agencies are only just beginning to set up camp for flood victims. Until now, there was no shelter or proper support on ground. Residents say the response has been slow and deeply inadequate.
Clean drinking water remains a luxury in this forgotten corner. Most victims rely on rainwater or on safe wells to survive.
In
Mokwa, it is not the flood that is killing hope, it is the silence that has followed. The people here aren't asking for luxury, just a basic Mokwa, Niger State. For News Central, I am Joshua Imadayi.
A heartbreaking report. What? The reality of our brothers and our sisters in Mokwa local government area. Joshua Imadayi did that report, and he's there live to bring us coverage from Mokwa. Joshua, watching that report was beyond heartbreaking. The videos and the footage were absolutely unreal. You said that it's not just the flood that's killing the people, it's the silence after. Can you expand further on that?
Well, like you rightly said, it is not just the flood, the silence after. Days after the incident, those affected are still expecting aid from the government. And the only aid they could get as at yesterday were just little bag of rice that were given to them. Most of them, they were given to console them because of the losses they suffered and incurred. When I mean losses, I mean belongings and lives of those that were lost to the devastating flood that ravaged part of that area. Well, it is quite unfortunate that even days after the incident, there is still no set aside place for them to rest their head for now. Most of them resort to sleeping in that particular place where that incident occurred, and it is disheartening that they are not hearing from the government as to what is the next step to take. I even spoke to the chief of the area who confirmed to me that there was no camp, and the government are not saying anything. The only thing they are saying is they set up camp. Here is the camp, pinpoint the particular area that is the camp. I took a visit to where they said they situated the camp at a primary school in that area. I can confirm to you that that place is nothing to make note of a camp. That place is subpar. When I mean subpar, in the doors of those classrooms, they still have lock. They are still under lock and key. No running water, and they are not saying anything. The government agencies are not saying anything. I got so lucky that I met with the person from the State Emergency Authority, who actually told me that they set up camp. I quizzed him for that. These people are saying there's no camp. Why are you saying there's a camp? And I even showed him photos and videos of that place, and he's still insisting that that place is a camp. So the silence from the government is another thing that is rotting the boat of these individuals that have suffered so much, and they've incurred so much losses in lives and in properties as to that incident that occurred here in Mokwa.
Has there been any presence of members of the government officials? Let's just say, has there been presence of government officials, especially from yesterday up until today? And can you also share with us where the people currently are as we speak this morning? Are they still situated within the affected areas, or have they moved?
Well, the only presence we had was that of the wife of the governor of this state. She came a few days ago where she donated an amount of money to them. However, that is that is not really what they want now. The only presence we have now currently around this place is the Director of Information of the State Emergency Management Authority, that's in SEMA. He was there when they were handing out the handouts they gave to them yesterday. That's the only presence they have. Aside that, nothing, no security, nothing. Few days back, the Minister of Police Affairs said the federal government is committed to ensuring that lives and properties are safeguarded around the camp and in where that particular incident occurred. I can confirm to you that there's not a single policeman around that area. I've been here from since Sunday till now. I can tell you for sure that there's no security man, no policeman or whatever. Most times when we mean government presence, we mean those that have been designated by government to render emergency aid, medicine, treatment, and even security. But I can confirm to you that those people are nowhere to be found around that area. Well, this state is expecting the vice president today to touch down, maybe commensurate with them, and maybe he's going to bring some federal intervention to salvage the situation and to give them succor. But on the long run, we've not seen one particular government official aside the State Emergency Management Authority who were here. And those ones that they've been here, they've not really been doing anything as regards to it. The only people we saw are some officials or from the primary health care who were going around taking statistics of those affected in their houses and checking on those who were actually sick or who are actually sick as regards to the incident that occurred here in Mokwa.
Emmanuel, just to clarify with you, regarding the shelter where they're potentially or where they are currently being held or kept, what's the feeding situation like? Do they have to fend for themselves? Are they getting at least some decent measure of food?
I can tell you for sure that those people are left to their own fate. Now it is taking the kind of intervention of those who were not affected to absorb these people into their homes. And those ones, they too, they've been trying to offer succor to those who are affected. There are those who are not affected, they are giving them clothes, absorbing them into their household, even giving them food. So as regards to food, the only thing I saw was, I think 4 days back, was where they were handing over to them few loaves of bread and 2 sachets of tea, that is a malt and milk. Aside that, nothing else for provision. As regards to the facility for where they are to stay, the only donor agency that has given them something for now is the UNICEF. And UNICEF just created a small tent in Tifin Maza Primary School. As regards to Pege Primary School, where they say they've instituted a camp for them to stay, I can tell you for sure that that thing is nothing more of a camp. That place is deficient to say and pinpoint that that particular place is a camp. No basic thing to put to the point or put to the fact that that particular place is a camp. That is what we have now.
Sure. I mean, you've shared with us what the true picture, what the current picture in Mokwa local government area is. I've seen some of the interviews that you've done as well with the citizens who have to live through this unfortunate ordeal. How is the state of their mind?
Well, in one word, these people are devastated. They've not experienced this thing for a long time now, and it is disheartening for them to see this thing come to light and still no intervention. Their hope is on the brink of tipping off, and the only thing that could salvage their emotions right now is government intervention, which they are not getting any. The only intervention they've been getting for a while now are just few bags of rice. And when you give these people a bag of rice, how do you intend to see them to cook this bag of rice? What we are supposed to see is meals given to these people daily. What we are supposed to see is sleeping mat or maybe preferable place where they could lay their head for the night given to these people daily. However, that is not the case here. Those people are left to their fate to stay in that particular place where that incident occurred. Some of them have spread their mat there to sleep and to take the night. Afterwards, they resume their day going about. So they are just hopeful, and their hope is gradually dying down.
All right, Joshua, just finally from our end here, what's the update on the death toll? Have you been able to grab hold of the numbers so far?
what we've been seeing so far are just estimations. A few days back, the deputy governor said that the death toll has hit 200 and still 1,000 persons unaccounted for. Those are just estimations, not putting aside the ones, the corpses that the families, those who were affected, have recovered. You can't count that because the government were not there when they were doing those counts. So I can tell you for sure that they lost a huge amount of lives as regards that incident. And one can't pinpoint or wrap his hand around the amount of people that were lost. Some, they lost 21 persons from one household lost 9, and an Islamic teacher who has over 800 students is still searching for those who were lost. So basically that is the tale around households and families around here. So we can't pinpoint the particular amount of people that were lost to this incident. All we can just do is estimate. And that is it.
And that again is another challenge, an indication of our problems with data, our challenges with data, seeing as if after this we don't have a clear picture of how many people were lost from the flood and how many people have been lost after the flood. It's really sad, Joshua. Please stay well. Extend our heartfelt condolences to the people of Niger State, and we look forward to connecting with you when the Vice President visits, hopefully, and let's see if that would boost the morale of citizens and maybe, offer the kind of support that they may need in this time. Thank you, Joshua.
It's a pleasure.
I honestly don't know how to feel about this update, Joe. It's heartbreaking. No Nigerian is more Nigerian than another Nigerian.
Yeah.
While we are here, people are moving on with their life. Our colleagues, our brothers, our friends, citizens of our country are languishing. I saw the clips, the flies, everything. Like, watching those videos, at some point, I'm sure you saw when I cringed. I couldn't look at the screen. I felt like we should have even put viewer discretion before playing some of the videos, because of how it's unimaginable and unthinkable that we're just moving on like nothing happens. Again, it feels like we run the country in isolation. When something hits one part of the country, we don't feel it as deeply around the country as we should. There should be some sort of solidarity. I'm hoping that right now a number of civil society organizations and NGOs will please rise to the aid of the citizens in Mokwa local government area in Niger State to offer help and assistance in the ways that maybe the government has not been able to meet up with. They're talking about needing food, needing water, potable water. They're talking about needing medication, especially because of how very terrible things have been. They're dealing with cholera. They're dealing with, the fact that their waters are already infected. So there's some measure of, because of how unhygienic the environment is, they will be dealing with high levels of cholera. Cholera is deadly. We don't want another cholera outbreak. So what they experience is what we call double jeopardy. The fact that they've had to lose their homes, lose their loved ones, and now even after that, it doesn't feel like there's some measure of safety or succor in the nearest future.
Yeah, well said. There's a lot to contend with, a lot to battle with. I seem to, while sharing my condolences with them, and what our reporter who is on ground has been her eyes and ears, Joshua Maria, said, if you put it together, you would be able to see that these people are simply just calling for intervention, and when they're asking for it now. So it's how fast the government can come to their aid that will definitely help them to be able to get that succor in which they crave. But I'm also worried, and my worry is based on the fact that I do not know since when Nigeria has gotten to a stage where we now have to politicize service, where we need to politicize acts of humanity. And what do I mean? I mean, he did talk about the local assistance that did come, of course, from those who offered the help within the area. But as a government, when this happens, I don't think you need to wait. And if you are working in government, you shouldn't also wait until a directive comes from the top. Hopefully the Vice President will get there today, and I'm also hoping that when he gets there, we can also make clear that it is not until the government or until the Vice President or the President gets there before you start seeing people. It's kind of like, I mean, with the statements made by Joshua, it's almost like everybody is just folding arms, and the others who could do what they can do are trying their best to provide help. But the main people in whom the residents of Mokwa are hoping to see and hoping to receive help from have not even gotten there yet. And this is where I always talk about communication. It's very key. If you're planning something for the entire community, trust me, it's hard. We are a country where, I mean, sometimes I like the fact that NIMET had been warning there'll be flash floods and so on and so forth. Very good. But aside from warning, what are the plans made available or put in place to ensure that should there be a natural disaster, how do we get out of it?
I'm very happy that you're mentioning that.
How do we get out of it?
I'm very, very happy that you're mentioning that, because the problem is we will repeat this cycle, unfortunately.
Oh, yes.
It will just be everybody mourning, we make show some solidarity and sympathy, and after a while, when they settled into the internally displaced persons camp, we move on, forgetting that we're entering into the peak of rainy season, and the potential of this happening again is high. Deaths have been estimated to be over 200, even though there are those who believe that the deaths could have been as high as 700 because of people who have been swept into the Niger River. There are over 3,000 people who have been displaced. Imagine waking up. I think for us to understand the magnitude of what these people in Niger State are dealing with, imagine waking up from your house, going to work, and not being able to come back to your home. Why? Because your home has been swept away from the ground up. You lose everything you worked for, finances, property, family members, and sometimes, you know, in some cases, it might be people who even have to fight for their lives because they've gotten injured in the flood or they swallowed a lot of water, so they're now in intensive care units fighting for their lives. We're seeing here, according to the report, over 3,000 people have been displaced, more than 265 houses destroyed, 503 households have been impacted. Critical structure, including 3 bridges, were washed away, cutting off traffic between the northern and the southern parts of the country. Indeed, there have been entire families that have been wiped out, right? We're seeing here that there's families and survivors that are recounting the harrowing loss they've had to experience. When we began the show, I mentioned the man who talked about losing 9 people, 5 children, 4 adult women, bodies, clothing, household items, everything just there, an indication that we could have prepared better for this. They are blaming it on climate change. They're saying that with heavier rains, we should expect more situations like this. But what do we do to forestall this? Or what do we do to ensure that we are more proactive as opposed to reactive? How do we prepare for this? What's the prediction with NEMA in terms of rainfall expectations for the year 2025? Which zones? Yes, they've been announcing the zones that have been affected. I remember the day I brought it up in the papers, my question was, I hope that the different bodies and organizations, MDAs involved, are taking note of these warnings by NIMET and making the necessary moves. So in terms of ensuring, exactly. Yes. And I remember that day we had Mr. Habib Haruna on the show. So it's just really very, very, very sad to see the reality that Nigerians have to deal with. And I'm hoping that this is some sort of a wake-up call for us to let us know that we need to support the people of Niger State. We need to ensure that we can't take away the pain that they feel. But if we do not stand up and show up for them, then we'll feel them as Nigerians. But even importantly as well, is to ensure that we take away lessons from this and ensure that we are further prepared to prevent eventualities and casualties of this magnitude in the future.
Absolutely. Well, we'll not forget too that the president had given directives for the link bridge to be fixed immediately. And then, of course, he also gave directive to the bodies to ensure that they actually get into work. I'm talking about the Niger State Emergency Management Agency, and not forgetting to every other one who is equally involved as well. So that's exactly what we're going to look at. Hopefully, we would get updates as well concerning that story. Well, let's quickly see who we can get to join us concerning this conversation. Joining us now is Dr. Ibrahim Audu Hussaini. He is the Director, Information and Special Duties in SEMA. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. We did see you in the report where our correspondent was asking you a few questions, but how has it been like? Can you paint a picture for us to understand the challenges that you are faced with, especially now?
Thank you very much for having me in your studio. And like I said, you are doing a wonderful work. Because for you to come down to Mokwa from where you are, it's so that you are committed to, without anybody inviting, show that you are committed to providing the people the right information they need, and also to give the Nigerians the true picture of what is happening in Nigeria, not staying where you are to get information or to fabricate information. I want to say what is happening is very, very massive. In fact, it's one of the worst flooding situations we have in Niger State. For us, yesterday, we have lost 160 people that we can count, and can verify, not to hearsay. So it is very, very massive, and it needs urgent attention because over 3,000 people have been displaced and affected. And the issue of their houses completely destroyed, damaged beyond repairs, and it needs intervention it needs serious intervention and serious attention for these people to get down to normal life, because most of them have lost their loved ones. So they have issue of their physical being, the issue of their mental being, and also the issue of how do they continue with their life. So the issue there is very, very massive. So since when it happens, the state government, the state governor has directed that all hands must be on deck, and all the response agencies, all the government functionaries are shifted towards that in order to ensure that those people are actually taken care of, to show that they are with them and then to stand with them, because this is the one they need the government most. And the government is doing that by providing shelter, food and non-food items, and also providing psychosocial services to the people in conjunction with our partners like NEMA, like IOM, like Red Cross, and so many NGOs. And he has also invited the federal government. The federal government has come. In fact, the BP is on its way now to this place. Some minister of work was here because of the road that was rehabilitated. Minister of Information and that of humanitarian were in Niger State to communicate with the state and also see where they can come in. The government is putting all on mobilizing every resources, every personnel, everything that needs to be done.
Dr. Seni, I'm wondering if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just want to butt in because you made a statement. Our reporter on ground has explained to us that the shelter provided is not conducive enough for the people, and some government officials who were expected to have come to also offer aid have equally not arrived. Can you confirm to us if this is true? Because you've been on ground, are you saying that the shelter that has been provided for the people is all well and good and very conducive for them?
Not conducive yet. We are moving there because there is pandemic everywhere where it happens. We are trying to put them in camp, and then in the first place we are trying to give them provide support for them in terms of food items and the sleeping materials. But then we have not been able to. That time the issue of profiling and also assessing and getting the actual figure of getting the actual, identifying the actual beneficiary or actual victims was a problem initially. And then they were also having problem of cooperating with us in the sense that most of them that have lost their loved ones also have the hope that probably some of them will be seen alive, or maybe their dead bodies will be recovered. So this mental problem has affected them, and you see, when somebody lost, no matter what they grieve, they were grieving. So we were having challenges of trying to tell them that we are there for them, of trying to tell them that we are going to the soccer and what do you call it? The accommodation we are providing for them. They refuses to go to that place because most of them were still going back to where they are, still sleeping there to see, and then scavenging to see if they can recover some certain things. Because some of them has attachment. You know how Nigerians are, how Africa attachment to where I was staying. And then the first day we attempted to distribute relief assistance. Every other person, everything, they were flooded. The environment was flooded by different people. So we realized that if we should start as at that particular moment, we might not get the actual target beneficiaries. And then at the end of the day, it will assume as if we have wasted the relief assistance for different people that come. Because you know the situation in the country, everybody was just around. So the leaders of the communities, in collaboration with our partners, IOM, Red Cross, and NEMA, we said, okay, let's do profiling house to house. So we have to do that. And it was only when we did that we started the distribution of giving them the distribution. Yesterday, most of them, as your correspondent was there yesterday, they have started, in fact, I know it's still around, they have started moving to the site, to where we are located for them. UNICEF was there. The Minister of Works was there yesterday with our deputy governor. So we have 2 camps, and they have started moving. So things are stabilizing, because the magnitude, when you have over 3,000 people that are affected, managing them is not a small thing. At the same time, you have people that are sentimental, people that want to blow things out of proportion, people that want to cash in on this situation to enrich themselves. So we have to be very careful, and that is why the issue of relief assistance, the issue of trying to settle them was there. You know, we have never experienced this. They have never experienced this. For them to come to camp, they were thinking, if they come to camp, what would they be eating? And Mokwa is just like a one village. It's just like a one community. They are all related. They are related. They are related to one another. So most of them prefer to stay with their carnival, but they have now been reasoning with our constantly talking to them, pleading with them, telling them, and then telling them what we need to do for them and why they need to be in camp. They are now gradually agreeing to our terms.
Can you expatiate on what you meant by people blowing things out of proportion? I don't think I quite understood what you meant there, and those who are trying to take advantage of the situation. Who are these people?
The other people, we have more than 10 communities, 10 areas in Mokwa. So where it's affected was just about 2-3 areas. So you have the youth, you have other people that whenever things like this happen, we have been experiencing this this thing, because we have been in this business for long, and we have been witnessing flood in, year out. So we have been used to managing. So sometimes we need to calm down, allow them to grieve, and allow them to settle down, and allow them to face reality that this is what is going on. And they need to continue their life, because who is gone or whatsoever they must have lost is gone. And they that are there, the life is for them.
Oh, we have lost the audio, but thank you for joining us to give us a picture of what the situation is in Mokwa. I hope that I would have been able to ask if we know for certain a confirmed number, or at least a range of the people that we've lost in this.
I mean, I think you mentioned 130 something.
We've seen different numbers.
So
I've seen 160. I've seen no fewer than 200 people who have died.
They're just estimated.
So I wanted to ask if we know for sure the people that have died from the flood, as well as people that have died after the flood, because from what we're seeing, people are falling ill. Have there been situations where, because of lack of access to proper care and medication, some of them have had to die? Because if we don't have this data, it will not help us. You don't understand the magnitude of a thing if you're looking at it from a surface point of view. And I can understand how maybe overwhelming this would be for them. I hope that they get support, not just from the government of Niger State, but from the rest of the country. We look forward to getting updates of the Vice President's visit and what it has done for the people. All right. I would look forward to bringing reports about that, as well as also to ask the civil society organizations, individuals, as much as you can, please support the people of Niger State, amplify their struggles with your platforms, and keep them in your prayer.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. Our correspondent is on ground, Joshua Marayi, and he will be following up as soon as the Vice President arrives in Niger State, Mokwa local government area. Let's see what would become out of that trip. But away from one troubling situation in Niger State to another one, this time still within the borders of Nigeria's northern states. Let's talk about the story concerning members of a new terrorist group known as Mahmuda. They reportedly took advantage of the loopholes created by the absence of local hunters who are currently in Ilorin on training for the National Forest Guard, recently approved by the presidency to provide security for communities. Now, members of the unrepentant new terrorist group, in a fresh attack on Duruma village in Baruten local government area, Kwara State, Tuesday morning, reportedly slaughtered 3 villagers. Let's also tell you that the 3 villagers who were killed by members of the terrorist group were immediately buried by the community. It was further gathered that the terrorist group carried out the heinous acts despite the presence of soldiers who are currently in the flashpoint areas of the affected communities. Well, let's get a proper feel and understanding of what could have taken place regarding this terrorist group known as Mahmuda. Our reporter is on ground. His name is Emmanuel Bagudu. Good morning to you, Emmanuel. I can see that you've made your way inside. Can you quickly share with us what's this controversy surrounding the fact that, you know, hunters have gone on training, they need to be fully equipped because of the president's directive. And while they are there, we also heard that there was a communique or a communication put in place that would see soldiers, you know, hold forth for them. But then again, the terrorist group attacks. Can you shed more light on this?
Yes, you know, these Mahmuda terrorist groups are actually groups that have actually run away from the Sahel due to the intense pressure of military operations from the Sahel. You know, some of them, you know, ran away from up north, talking about Sokoto, Kebbi. Of course, there was a peace treaty between Governor Obasanjo and the terrorists in Kaduna, so there is no way they can settle there. So the only option they have is to, you know, move down south, and that's where they found a little refuge in Kwara State. You know, Kwara State have been a little bit peaceful, so that is where they actually found refuge. And the whole thing about terrorists fighting is all about war against terrorism is community driven. So it's what these guys do is that when they go into these villages, they take advantage of the vulnerability of these villages, and then, you know, relax with them, and then, you know, give them some kind of fake you know, refuge. These are hard to reach areas. You stay with these guys, these villagers, and before you know it, they infiltrate the communities. And that's how they be moving. They will move. If the military, or rather the new forest guard come in to push them away, they will still move to the next community that is known for peace. So that's have been, they started coming in right from the Sahel up to North Central, and then they're going down west. That has been their movement, and that will be what they continue to do as far as Niger security operatives continue to, you know, chase them. Yeah.
And how would you say the people are taking this recent attack? What is the state of their mind? Are we seeing that this is a completely, I mean, let's answer this before I ask the next question.
Sorry, I didn't get the question right.
I was asking how the citizens are taking this latest attack. You know, what are they saying? Can you give us a sense of what their mind space is, you know, currently?
Sure. Of course, it's a feeling of sadness, of course, a feeling of loss, and of course, hopelessness and all of that. You know, these things are new to them. Also, the people of Kwara State, they are not known for terrorist attack. They have never experienced this kind of terrorist attack before. So they have a feeling that their state is going to be turned to like the likes of Katsina and Zamfara. So they have a feeling of fear, and intimidation is lowering in them. But of course, it's because of the federal government to hasten up with the forest guard initiative to make sure that these people don't lose hope, and we don't get to see them, you know, packing their loads and coming into the city center. That's the way we see in Zamfara and Katsina. You know, that's the feeling. There is a feeling of hopelessness and fear because it's something new to them. And of course, like I said, this will continue because as far as the terrorist group continue to receive a lot of fire from the Sahel, fire from the up north, from the Lake Chad Basin. Of course, they will certainly find refuge. They will continue to move and find refuge in fresh, environment, causing fear and intimidation to, unsuspecting citizens. Yeah.
All right. Also, just to confirm, because it feels like we're hearing different names. A few weeks back it was Lakrawa. Now we're talking about Mahmuda. So, what really do we have some background information as to how these ones have come to be? Is there any possibility that this is an evolution of some sort for what Lakrawa was? Is there any connection? Do we have any information as to maybe some form of interconnection between these terrorist organizations?
Yes, these are just nomenclatures. They don't give themselves nomenclatures they just rebrand themselves. When you look at the way things are, in Kaduna State, there was a peace treaty between the terrorists and the government. And some of them ran away and go into neighboring Niger State. Some of them moved to Katsina and Zamfara. Up northeast, of course, there is a lot of heat, firepower from the military. Come to the northwest, you see a lot of dispersal. They disperse these terrorists. So they go back and then they regroup and then they give themselves a brand new name. These names are not, they're those funny names. They just create them just to, give themselves a kind of sense of identity. But they are not new. They know themselves very well. In fact, there are instances in the city of Kaduna State where we walk through terrorist non-terrorists who are now owning shops, who are now living in the society. You know, these are people that are already having experience staying in the forest. They can be on their own. Somebody will just come and pick them and then take them to the bush and they okay, come and belong to the name of this society. You know, this is our society. This is how we operate. I mean, we're making a lot of money from kidnapping. Come and join us. This kind of shop you are doing is not going to give you anything. That's what they do. There are instances like that. We have plenty of that in Katsina, where we have a lot of recovery programs talking about de-radicalization programs, and then in the course of that, you see the terrorists going back into the bush again because they're already used to a lot of money. So they are not new. They are not new. Most of these people you see creating new groups are people that have been dispersed by the military, and then they are coming back to create the organization so that they can continue. They have this unrepentant spirit, so to say. Yeah.
Finally, from my end, just a few hours ago, Benue State, the Middle Belt, is mourning again. 43 persons killed. We're told all Christians, and they were killed by Fulani, purportedly, headsmen. And here we have Kwara State as well, juggling with its own challenges. And then just like you mentioned, in the north as well, it's happening. It kind of seems like this circle of attacks is starting to gain momentum. It's starting to become bigger and bigger. You've been at the forefront. You were deep in the northern parts just a few weeks ago, and you had conversations with those who were affected. From your own view, can you also shed more light on the good things that the military is doing? Because it seems like nobody's really talking about the progress that they've made.
Yes, most of the incidences you see in Benue is just the issue of the competition for spaces for grazing. That's what gives Benue a different issue. The fresh mangrove fresh water for grazing and all that, the spaces for agriculture and all. It's just a simple. The question has to do with a lot of policies. Yeah, with a lot of both state and federal government have to come together and create these policies. The people you see attacking innocent citizens in Benue are mercenaries being hired by most of the people interested in grabbing land from the people of Benue. And of course, when they come and they commit this mayhem, they go back. It seems not to trace them. When they are arrested, you discover that these are unknown faces. So it's a question of the issue of Benue has to do with policy, because spaces for grazing and spaces for agriculture has been the bone of contention in the case of Benue. And of course, we have a very strong military presence there, Operation Safe Haven, which have been doing its best, to curb the menace of these attacks. And we hopefully, we believe that with the non-kinetic aspect which they're introducing, they have also non-kinetic actions like ground table, town hall meetings, and all that. Hopefully, these things are going to be nipped in the bud. Yeah.
Town hall meetings that New Central has been at the forefront of. We hope to continually amplify the voices of the Nigerian citizens who struggle with one issue or the other. Insecurity now is the focus, and we hope that there's some relief. And maybe with the introduction and training of the forest guards, we can see some improvement in the fight against insecurity. Thank you, Emmanuel Bagudu, for joining us this morning.
All right. Well, it's been a very deep conversation with our reporters on ground, one who is in Niger State, another one who's also covering the security situation in the north as well, and not forgetting to advancing to the south, east, and also the Middle Belt. These conversations will continue most definitely round the clock, because we have our eyes on the ball, and that's exactly what News Central does, ensuring that you get the latest real time and also on time. Well, let's quickly tell you what to expect in the next hour. Of course, we will be having breakfast headlines, and not forgetting to the front pages of the newspapers will be up next. So do us a favor, stay with us. We'll go on a quick break. We'll be right back for more.
Welcome to Breakfast Headlines. We start now with the judiciary workers under the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JOSUN, who are expected to resume work today, Wednesday, the 4th of June, 2025, following the suspension of their nationwide strike. The suspension of the strike is conditional on the federal government releasing pending funds to the judiciary within a 1-month window. The agreement was part of a consensus reached during the dialogue initiated by the CJN and supported by the Labour Ministry and Labour leaders. Upon the release of these funds, the government is expected to immediately implement several critical demands of JUSN, including the new minimum wage of 70,000 naira and its arrears, a 25 to 35% salary increase for judicial staff and a 6-month wage award, along with all related arrears. Let's now talk security, as the Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia has received the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oloyede, who has relocated to the state due to worsening security conditions with series of attacks and killings by terrorist headsmen. Alia, who discussed with the Army Chief behind closed doors, briefed critical stakeholders on their deliberations, which he said was geared towards taking a direct approach to surmount the degenerating security situation in parts of the state. Lieutenant General Oloyede had, after the meeting with Governor Alia at the government house in Makurdi, left immediately to engage with his commanders to confront the lingering issues of insecurity which brought him to the state. Official reports say attacks have almost become a daily occurrence and has left nearly 100 people dead in the past week alone. Several others are reportedly injured or maimed and several houses burnt, leaving many homeless. Away from that, days after devastating floods swept through Mokwa local government area of Niger State in north-central Nigeria, residents say they are still without basic necessities. With homes destroyed and no functional internally displaced persons camp set up, many victims are struggling to survive without shelter, medicine, or clean water. Meanwhile, the state's Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Ahmed Suleiman, who says the exact casualty figure remains unknown, disclosed that more than 200 bodies have been recovered in Mokwa community following the devastating flood. He confirmed that the state government has activated emergency response measures and ordered the distribution of relief materials to displaced victims now sheltered in makeshift camps. Despite these efforts, victims have expressed frustration over poor living conditions and inadequate food supplies. Meanwhile, Niger State Governor Mohammed Bago has granted an unconditional state pardon to 11 inmates previously sentenced to death. The state's Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Nasiru Muazu, made the announcement during a press briefing in Minna, the state capital. The prisoners had been convicted in connection to a deadly communal clash between the Gaba and Anfani communities in Lavon local government area, which resulted in loss of life and significant destruction. And now let's talk politics. The governor of Rivers State, the suspended governor, some may refer to him, Siminalayi Fubara, paid a visit to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Lagos. The presidential spokesman, Bayo Onanuga, posted photos of the duo during the meeting. However, details of what transpired during the visit have yet to be known. The visit came months after Tinubu suspended Fubara, his deputy Ngozi Odu, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly over a protracted political crisis rocking the state. The impasse in the coastal state began owing to a power tussle between Fubara and his successor, Nyesom Wike, who is, of course, the Minister of the FCT. And now let's head to the education sector, where a Lagos-based lawyer and human rights activist, Evans Ofeli, has filed a lawsuit against the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, and Nigeria's Minister of Education over the conduct of the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination. Ofeli claims that the examination process subjected students to inhumane and unsafe conditions, alleging the students were forced to write exams in poorly lit and unsafe environments, with some sessions extending as late as 8 p.m. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court in Lagos, Ofeli argues that the May 2025 English language exam was held under unlawful, and degrading circumstances. Ofeli is requesting the court to order a receipt of all affected exams under proper conditions and to award 100 billion naira in damages for the trauma and rights violations suffered by the students. Let's head outside Nigeria, where the United Nations says 5 aid workers have been killed in an attack on a convoy headed for Sudan's besieged city of El Fasher, where famine looms after more than 2 years of war. The latest assault on humanitarian aid by the country ravaged by conflict was reported as the United Nations announced a milestone of 4 million Sudanese having left across borders since the war began in April 2023. The 15-truck convoy organized by the World Food Programme and UNICEF came under attack near Alkoma village in North Darfur State, the United Nations agency said in a joint statement. The attack killed 5 members of the convoy and left several others injured, while multiple trucks were burned and critical humanitarian supplies were damaged. That's all I have this morning on Breakfast Headlines. News Central's Breakfast Central continues. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for staying here. This is Breakfast Central. The front pages is up next. We do have, of course, Mr. Theophilus Akatugba, who joins us this morning. Welcome and good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good morning.
Good to see you, sir.
Good morning. Let's go straight to the papers as we kick off, but let's remind you that you can be part of the front pages. All you need to do is just feel free to call the number you'd find on the screen and react to either of the stories that we would be taking from the front pages. We'll start off with the very first one. As usual, you know we likely start off with Punch, but I'm not going to go to the Punch first. Let me go straight to the Vanguard. That will be my first paper this morning. So let's go to the Vanguard. Yes, on the front page there, sad story. We've covered this story in the last hour. Niger flood, 1,249 communities in 30 states. FCT at risk, according to federal government. So they're talking about FCT as well being involved in the flood. COAS, that's Kwas Oluyede, relocates to Benue with PSOs. Action time. That's what it means. That's what we like to see. Insecurity, Tinubu-Matawale should be commended for reinvigorating Navy. Uneasy, calm as soldiers, policemen take over Abraka anti-kidnapping protest that happened, if you recall, just a few days ago. And let's take another one very quickly. Federal government saves 12 million girls from cervical cancer in 9 months. That's another story you find there. Presidency to Afenifere, Tinubu's economic reforms, painful but necessary. Pretty much that's all the story you have on the front page of the Vanguard, but I'm just going to allow us focus on one. It's got to do with the fact that the Chief of Army Staff, Oluyede, relocates to Benue with PSOs, killer headers, creating community of widows. Benue women cry out. I don't know if you heard, 42 or 43 persons were killed again. They said all Christians in Benue State. The women came out in protest. They said enough is enough. You're turning us to widows, especially when we lose our husbands. And for our husbands, they're starting to become widowers because you're not sparing anybody. You're also ensuring that you end the lives of the women as well. What do you make of the Chief of Army Staff deciding to head straight to that zone?
Okay, is he just going there temporarily, or is relocated? They
use the word relocate.
Relocate. So if there's a killing in Plateau, he will relocate to Plateau again.
I don't know.
See, we need to be serious. We have, what is most painful is that we've not been able to put our hands on who are these killers. They kill the women, they're making. We have to find out who are these killers, where are they coming from, who is behind them, what is their objective. If it's really that they are killing in Benue to take over the land, why haven't they taken at least 20% or 100%? 50%? Let's see the progress of those guys against us. Everyone is saying because they want to grab lands or they want to take over, they want to cleanse this. This country should not romanticize these problems. It's got to solve them and nip them in the bud. Let them be a thing of the past. I think something is wrong with Africa. Our problem seems to live with us continually, forever and ever, and everyone takes advantage of it to make a living. We need to change. We need to change.
I agree. I agree with you. I think I like the point you made with that word relocate. Very, very strong word there. Could simply mean that he's finally moved away from...
No. I've got to go and look at the details of that story. That's what I was reading.
Yeah.
So they said that the Chief of Army Staff will hold strategic meetings. He wants to have on-the-spot assessment of what is going on. He'll visit troop locations and operational bases in the state to interact with troops and boost their morale and fighting spirit. He's also expected to visit the villages that have been attacked and reassure residents of their safety and the resolve of the Nigerian Army to protect the lives and property of citizens. And then they now go further to say, while in the state, he's expected to spend some days in the state before relocating. Wait, listen to this line. Wait, please. He's expected to spend some days in the state before relocating back to Abuja.
Can you see this?
What? Relocating?
You see the, yes. So
what's the use of the word? Why is the word relocating?
Yeah, I mean,
to grab attention.
We have to talk to our colleagues sometimes. They have to be very mindful.
You know, this desperation, you know, once the desperation to make a living out of every opportunity, that is what I see in every appearing, either of the news, of the politics, of the politician, just to take advantage of a soft spot. We should be ashamed. Up till now, even the Chief of Army Staff was asking a question, who funds them? We've been fighting this war, it never ends. And the people we fight keep having resources. And if that question is not yet answered, what is the purpose of the fight? Who are we fighting?
Key question. That's very key, because this fight has been long in time memorial, and they've been fighting it, and it hasn't ended. Besides, it's also said, not rumored, because a member of the House of Assembly also alluded to the fact that even some army troops said that they do have the latest gadgets. So
which do they have a country where they generate income? Do they have some assets or resources that they export product? Which nation, which society are they from? Where do they sit down to plot that we are going to Benue? We don't have that, and we are fighting. And we have been fighting.
We have been fighting. It's been continuous. Talking about fighting, Nigerian Tribune is another paper I want to look at.
Yes, the front page of the Nigerian Tribune again still talks about the story of the Chief of Staff. Says Army Chief moves in, deploys more troops, logistics, police relocate. Please relocate again. Police relocate area commander, tactical teams to troubled local government areas. So I would think that the automatic meaning of relocation is they're just changing the location. They're moving their location from one place to another.
I don't think relocate. I don't know.
That's the meaning. So what's the meaning of the word relocate?
No, relocate simply.
So they're just changing your location.
Change that location.
It's just that when we think of relocate in a more permanent term.
Yeah.
But they're using relocating here. Move to a new relocating actually connotes something more permanent.
Yes, but that's what I was about saying. That the word relocate it definitely means like you are moving from a base, from one base to a base
and that's involved a lot. So if you say someone has gone to assess and will spending time there, or moves in to look and take a closer moves in. And then
steps in to stop
to take a closer look and on-the-spot assessment of what's going on in that community with a view to making further adjustment to the strategy they've been using before. You know, sometimes we do these things just to create conversation.
Okay.
I am looking at how we can solve our problems, not how we can romanticize and use them for gains.
Okay, still looking at the story about insecurity and relocations. Gunmen kill 16, burn several villages and several houses rather in plateau communities. Terrorists kill 3 villagers in Kwara. You've heard of the new terrorist sect that has, become a topic of conversation now. We first of all heard of Lakra, now is Mahmuda. Where they came from, what their objective is, we can only imagine. Man falls from Cocoa House topmost floor. Oh wow. USSD banking charges to be deducted from airtime, NCC says. Would you prefer that? So instead of them deducting it from when you do the star, whatever transactions, to make either to buy airtime or to do a transaction without going to your app, typically they will deduct it from your account. But now they're deducting it
because
from
it's actually a telecom service. So you're supposed to pay the charge at the point of your USSD usage instead of
so this is a much better...
It's a better option because you make a choice, because the bank seems to charge even if you didn't use it, because you subscribe to it.
Yeah.
So I think it goes for about 6 naira, something.
So you choose to use it, because I think the bank will just tell you SMS charges. They keep charging you even when it's not utilized. And most times they don't remit to the telcos.
The bank charges are killing.
Nigerian banks?
They are killing.
No,
I think we have to look into it.
No, the first thing I think I sometimes suspect that the economy is not viable enough for the banks to survive.
You think so?
Yes, because they don't borrow. They They're not using the resources and the funds available to re-energize the system. The Nigerian bank will not borrow someone because there's a 500 naira unpaid debt to another bank. 500 naira, maybe just an extra charge. The Nigerian bank would deprive himself of doing business because of the fault of another bank. So such a banking system will rely on charges. The Nigerian banking system makes more money from charges and all other activities that are not proper banking that helps a society to energize its economy. If you don't borrow, how do you want the economy to grow? The Western economies that we're all modeling after, they thrive on huge borrowings, credit extension to the people. But in Nigeria, if you look at the credit of most of the profit, and they tell you the sources of the profit, they'll tell you charges for letter of credit, charges for bulk SMS, charges for this. And the interest on loans, the smallest part of their income. So if we don't reorganize, and the central bank seems to be keeping these banks afloat through these charges, and they know exactly what they are doing. They need to revisit it, reduce their income from these areas, and let them focus on using the funds, moving money from place where it is not needed to where it is needed, so that the economy can grow.
Okay. Still on the front page, we're saying Nigeria's $1 trillion ambition at risk without policy stability, NGX chairman says. Mokwa flood, federal government blames climate change on regulated buildings, damage devastating, Niger government says. I want us to talk about this as well. We've been following up with the story. Our correspondent Joshua Imara is there. We connected with them. The stories, Mr. Katuba, that we've heard from Niger, they are demoralizing. I recall, and I've talked about this over and over today on the show, a man who lost 9 people in this attack. 5 children, 4 women, 4 adult women, in the flood, rather. There are people who have died during the flood. We don't even know how many people we've lost. The only thing they say is so far they've recovered over 200 bodies. How many households, over 3,000 households have been displaced. But the feedback we're getting is it's not just the flood that is killing people. It's the silence after the flood that is killing them.
Yeah, you know, the first thing you must look at is the state prepared for this kind of emergencies?
Good question.
You know, are they well equipped? Because what you will see, if they are not there, they've been caught napping, they are not well equipped. The area that's been affected, they didn't even have a plan for it. It was not envisaged. And so everything will be silenced because even the man who's supposed to be in charge of the emergency rescue is devastated himself because he has no capacity to even imagine adequate response. You see, we believe, if you look at our society, we believe very much in the powers that be to protect us. And so even governments also have that kind of structure. You see people not having insurance, they tell you they did not even plan. It's not part of their prayer that the misfortune should come. So when an African society is affected, why the Western countries looking at just the immediate inconvenience, they know the bill is paid by the insurance. But here we are not in that culture yet. Our insurance system has not been so encouraging enough for people to even trust it, where insurance practitioners see premium as profit. You know, we have a very multifaceted challenge. So when we hear what's happening in Niger, we shouldn't be surprised. Have we even checked if they have the facilities to respond to this kind of scale, magnitude?
Fine point. I think we also highlighted that in the course of the conversation. Have we checked? Are they able to respond on time? And like our reporter has said, what's really killing the people is the duration, the time it's taking for response. We do hear that UNICEF is there. They set up a small space just to provide food for the people. But there's one problem I have as well, and I don't know if you also have this same problem, where when there's an emergency, a reporter broke it down that the government has sent people to give them rice. I remember I saw a post that said in Nigeria,
rice,
any problem.
Give them
you have
rice.
Headache, rice.
Give them rice.
You are depressed, rice.
Chop rice.
Rice is a strong political statement, like in Liberia.
How do they cook the rice?
Yeah, you know, if you hear so many things, UNICEF will have to be there. I hope they are there effectively to respond, or not to showcase that they are there in order to attract further donations. We have to be, you know, life is not, it shouldn't be as hard as it is. We have not even heard what the local government have set up. We've not heard what state government have put together. We need to have, we need to stop talking politics and start talking development.
Thank you.
That is the only way you can solve national problems.
It seems like I mentioned as well earlier on, it seems like every single thing in our society is now being politically driven. It's politicized. If you look at transportation, the minister is expected to do his job. The transport associations are expected to do their job, but they have to pledge allegiance to, you know, the political party. Everything must be okay. Let's politicize this before we work. And the same thing, National Emergency Management Agency in Niger State. We did have one of the directors join us, and we also talked about the challenges they are facing. But it pretty much seems like nobody was ready for this, even though NIMET had sounded the warning months earlier. But let's go to our next paper very quickly. It has the Daily Times on the front page there. You can see Bill Gates himself. He has been conferred the honor national honor of the Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, CFR. There you see him. Of course, the richest man in Africa was there to ensure that he witnessed that. Tinubu's 2-year achievements, proof of visionary leadership, Information Minister says. We've seen that, of course, already. Automatic tickets to NAS members, APC addresses reports. Let's take that. Page 2 has it. The chairman of the All Progressives Party, you know, talking about the APC, I beg your pardon, had come out to speak sparingly about a situation that many have talked about, and that's the case of having people defect, moving from one party A to the ruling party. And rumors came out earlier, I think it was also published by one of the papers when we're reviewing it here, that it was mentioned that those who are moving are giving, you know, fat offers, including automatic. And don't forget that this statement was equally made on the edges of what the president himself had said when he went to the National Assembly. I don't know if you remember that word.
He said he used the 11th Assembly.
Exactly.
He said now
the 11th Assembly. He said it was an error, and people said, oh, beautiful error. But he now said, don't worry, you are all elected.
Yes.
But now you have the chair of the APC coming out to say, no, you know, we're not talking about automatic and so on and so forth. How do you review this back and forth and the holes in this?
If you are a big fish and you are coming from another party, there will be trade-ins, there will be negotiation. And so just imagine Governor Borewo moving from the PDP to APC. That one is obvious that there will be a deal that I get the automatic, no one contest me. So these deals are part of the deal, are part of the movement. It is depend on how powerful you are from where you are coming from, depend on what position you hold, depend on what you add to APC. You have to negotiate with those who are there already. And so that man who says no, it could be, but at the end of the day, it's still the same deal that a deal must take place.
So we're certain that a number of these big figures that are moved to the party are getting automatic tickets.
So what happens to Nigeria's democratic process?
The democratic process is what is going on. That is, you see, we always we always say democratic process. Every culture has its own democratic system, has its own democratic orientation.
Factory-fitted democratic system. Made to measure.
Nigeria is practicing its own. Some other country might learn from us and change their system. After all, Ghanaians were not using certain technological devices that we're using until they looked at it and they used it and they did it better than we have ever used it. It exposed the fact that the system is good, but the people are bad. And you get to the point. Everything Nigeria subscribes to use. Fantastic. It's just the people. Once the Nigerian person confronts any system, he changes it. So this is also part of the democratic
He becomes the auto manual.
It changes form.
But wait. Okay, so what happens to INEC?
INEC is going to conduct election where demons are politicians. So you expect INEC you have to pray for INEC. You see, it's not just, let me explain to you.
Please break it down.
No, let me explain to you. If you want to be an umpire of an election for your staff of your of this particular organization, News Central, and they say you are the umpire for the election for staff union. And the guys have decided that when they get there, they will snatch the ballot box, they will injure someone and ensure they impose their man. But you get there and you put all the systems in place, and they decided to do what they want to do. In what way is that really your problem? Sometimes we over-victimize INEC. We forget that the entire marketplace, election period is a marketplace in Nigeria.
Let me read
the same way exams are conducted, where everyone, the miracle centers are active, the teachers, supervisors who want to take bribe are all waiting to go into the trade.
Okay, I want you to react to something. You said that we overblame INEC.
Yeah, we overburden INEC with blames. Yeah.
Earlier today, we had the opportunity of speaking. We interviewed Kenneth Okonkwo, and then we had him react to a number of questions. He particularly blamed INEC for a number of things. He said that INEC is in cahoot with the APC, that INEC is just like another arm. They're doing the bidding of the APC. He talked about how he blamed in some measure the destabilization we're seeing in the Labour Party on INEC and their lack of ability to interpret the Supreme Court judgment, stating that they were not able to do what they ought to do. They knew what to do, but they relaxed. So I don't think he's very excited about INEC.
Yes, I understand. I understand his bitterness with INEC, especially coming from the fact that he was an active member of the Labour Party when the glitch and all the other things happened. So he has not actually overcome that. I appreciate his point. If you look critically at Nigeria as a country, I'm just telling you that no matter how great your institutions are, if your people are bent on subverting every process without waiting to get the right outcome for themselves, no effort will be made that will work. So, because we will keep destroying the institution that we want to build without having any room, giving them any, we think they are perfect because they're organized. There can be errors. After all, an INEC official sent to Benue, he's the same person that we call the politicians that have been relocated there. Can I see you? And let's talk. The same,
what are
if that is a Nigerian, no, what to talk about the benefits it can give to you. Let me tell you, we are in a trade. Nigeria looks like go to a police station, an ordinary police station, bail is free, the policeman and his DPO, they will preside over the collection of money for bail. And they will have a POS operator around the station that's collecting money. Is that not a Nigerian? Fact. It's the simplest way. Fact. Somebody is at the semi-border checking people moving in and out. Somebody who is a criminal has no documentation for the trip. He goes through the process quicker than the one that has a passport. He is squeezed all over for presenting a passport. Why the one who didn't have evidence, no document that paid the money? We need to look at how a nation really developed than hacking down institutions because of the errors of the humans, the human development quality of Nigerians. Are we developing? Do we have the human beings that will take Nigeria to the growth we are seeking? That's the question.
Can, as it stands right now, can INEC be truly independent? That's one. But that's one of my questions. As we look at this story in the front page, can INEC be truly independent? Second question is, I don't know if you recall, just not too long ago, the 1993 elections that brought about the late MKO Abiola. It was mentioned that the former INEC boss, as at then, the late Humphrey Nwosu, failed to announce MKO Abiola as the winner, the results, because I mean, he was told not to do so. Yeah. We've heard the stories and so on. So I'm trying to picture in my mind, he has been criticized, hence why they do not want to, celebrate
give him that honor.
Give him that honor. He's been criticized for not standing and doing the right thing at the right time, because it was said that history would never forget the role he played in Nigeria's democracy today. Can today's INEC, can it free itself from that previous mistake or error or shackles? I mean, we saw INEC announce results at 4 a.m. and that was a shock to Nigerians. And here we are going into another election, and then they've told everybody, don't worry, you're all elected. Doesn't it belittle INEC as just, I mean, it kind of took over, like all you said.
If you
said it's just another arm of the current ruling party.
What I want to say, I don't know if there is a time that election results should be announced. I don't know if 4 a.m. was not part of it, if it's out of the regulations. So announcing the result, you are collating. At any time you complete, you have to announce. And INEC is sticking to the rules. They are not. They have to go on with the election. They won't truncate the election. If INEC fails to announce the election, you can have crisis. INEC will be blamed. The election has to be announced. There are processes to redress. It's part of our laws. We get it. Everybody will be emotional when it's time for election. INEC is not infallible. That's what I'm saying. It's not as if INEC is perfect. INEC will always do the correct thing because the human being, the human factor, there. Look at the one you are referring to, 1993.
Yeah.
Great election conducted. Option A4. The election umpire collating his result. The human being in the president, Babangida and co, truncated the election. Because these are the human factors where he doesn't have the interest of the nation at heart. Everyone that is subverting our systems have no love for this country. And where there is no love, there cannot be good. Love is missing. We don't think of the other and the tomorrow of a nation. So everybody is thinking of now and his opportunity. Then you never have it good. Because you refer to Kenneth Okonkwo talking about INEC. Yes, all of those things he raised, as far as it affects him, he's very angry with INEC. But if it affects others, is he as angry as that? So we need to be balanced and see that INEC work, I believe, primary school students can conduct election.
Someone said events planners.
Yes, because what is election? Is to collate the figures of the election and announce who has won. Unfortunately, even with professors, Nigeria is failing to be able to conduct. If that is the case, then how can we come out among nations and be proud when even in Ghana, you learning from Nigeria, deploying that, the elections were held, the human being in it sustained the electoral body. It doesn't mean there were no mistakes. But the human beings, the vice president, who was a contestant, had already considered defeat because he was also collating. Are you telling me Labour Party and all the other parties did not collate results on their own to be able to know the outcome of the election? Everybody collected. Why don't you come with your figures? Nigeria is, we try to muddy the water and think to
just
get an advantage.
Yes. Few.
Because all the parties in Ghana were collating. The newspapers, the radio stations are also allowed to collate.
But it seems like, we're supposed to use the beavers, and then it was said that it will be transmitted. And what we saw on the IREF portal, it was quite different from what...
No, when you say the IREF is multiple, sometimes you see something right, you see, but the point is, have you collated?
Yeah.
If you come to TV, you say, okay, I have 180-something results that are contradictory. It's easy. When you didn't collate, I didn't collate, we are all muddling the water, we are all shouting. All we do here is, once our institutions falter, people wanted jam scrapped because of an error we saw recently. People are now going after WAEC. Is there any reason why we want to damage the institutions just because we feel hot? Can't we just sustain them, correct their errors? Because institutions will develop as you keep following them, not to close them or wish them to be completely removed, because we are going for another election. People are already attacking INEC. And people are preparing for election that INEC will conduct, but INEC is being attacked, discredited, and yet you see politicians still gangling to the election. It beats me. If I have so much, if the quality of my confidence on INEC is so low, I will not participate in the election.
Okay.
That's another angle. Yeah, because...
But then again, when you say, and I hear you, when you talk about us not beating down these institutions because we're displeased by
not beating them, just wishing that they be closed down. Or,
yes. Yeah. That might not be a viable option. Sometimes I don't think it's necessarily because citizens want to hound these organizations as much. Sometimes it's also a factor of the first way to fix a problem is to call it for what it is. Okay. So without mincing words, without sugarcoating, telling them, look, this is how much of a terrible job you have done. So maybe that will serve as an inspiration to let them know, these people don't trust us. We need to sit up to ensure that the narrative and the impression that they have of us, we do not confirm it by our actions or our inaction.
That's true. I agree with you. But you see, if it's about being determined to be evil, and the more you speak, they want to still be evil, they will still have a way out. Love is important. if somebody say I made a mistake, there was an error here, like our Isha Koloye, they did. People were even mocking him. People didn't even appreciate him for whatever he has done because they are affected. You know, the truth is that we don't give ourselves the benefit. I think we are too hard on ourselves in Nigeria, and we don't even appreciate how much progress we are making in spite of all the difficulties.
Anyway. Okay. As we wrap up the newspaper front pages, I still want to take you a few more stories on the front page of the Daily Times. Nigeria Security and Political Economy Part 3, I believe that's an op-ed. 2 arrested in Anambra over attack on police, military operatives. Federal government, civil servants to federal government settle 10-month arrears by June 30 or ... What is the or? You get the paper to find out. Salah, Christian scholars join Muslims to clean Eid prayer ground. That's great. And finally here, withheld local government allocations. Osho State drags federal government to Supreme Court. This local government matter. It was in July that we got the Supreme Court judgment about that seemingly granted autonomy to the local government. But it would seem that the practicality or implementation of that is a far cry from what the reality is.
This is the point. You see again, something as straightforward and as simple as that, because of interest, the governors cannot stand another tier of government having executive budget control. They can't sleep.
Which is in the Constitution already.
Which is supposed to be something so easy that a local government chairman has his own budget. He can do the street lights in that area. Development will so spread. He can make sure the markets are of international standard. Yeah. Make sure the small feeder roads are tagged, little primary school. The governor want to have all the power, which is called the power centralization of the Nigerian political system, where the governor is the alpha and omega. He can't stand some local government chairman able to things. He can't stand it. That's what is going on. That's what is going on.
It's a problem. It's a problem. But taking them to the Supreme, you know, another thing is they're taking them to the Supreme Court. It is the same court that has said.
So the governor
go ahead
and implement it.
However, this is just one state. While Osho State is taking them to the Supreme Court, the federal government, Nigeria's chief CJN, had said that the processes of ensuring everything works is slow. That's not all. The what was his name? I'm trying to remember. Senior Advocate of Nigeria at the presidency as well. Is it Latif as well? He has also spoken on this, and he's also looking to ensure that the court's order stands. So, is it that we just have a clear negligence of what the court said, or has the court lost its prowess, its respect, its honor, and rule of law?
The courts become what they are once the human beings
start controlling to what?
They hold the court in what it is. What is going on? The court has made the declaration is for the executive to implement.
Now, they don't want to.
Because their fight is a battle. We are coming from a very deep dungeon. Nigeria went so down. Nigeria was really off. How this country continued to float to survive, you know, because money was being thrown into the system. So people really were going on. It was not important whether rules were being kept. So long as you wake up, you flourish, you do well, you make your trips, you enjoy yourself. Nigerians felt that was development. This is why Nigerians are not respected all over the world, because when we come there, we showcase the true temperature of our personality, and they now put us where we belong, because they know you. We need to change. To obey law is simple, make society beautiful. That's why when the Western countries, their presidents say we are going right, that day, you will know. Donald Trump said, I'm going to remove it. You know, that power has reduced. You know. Going to the embassy to apply for a visa, and you have to check it with America you are going to.
Yes.
So, because the president said it is being done, when our president says something in Nigeria, someone somewhere will be giving reasons why it's not being done.
You know what? We have to get out of the studio.
And the word of our president is not law in Nigeria, because some other official believe that it could be
manipulated in some measure.
So anyway,
we have to go now. Mr. Katugba, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us this morning. And thank you to our audience for joining us as well. We hope that you will make it a date with us tomorrow, as we'll be back to bring you the biggest stories around the country. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Johansson, thanking you for watching. See you again tomorrow. Jasiri is up next with the ladies. Stay tuned and good morning.